So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Sonneson. I'm the director of the Language Center at the University of Minnesota, and I'm happy to welcome you to another event hosted by the Language Collaboratory. We're a partnership for the advancement of intercollegiate dialogue on the teaching of languages and cultures, driven by language centers and institutes at the University of Iowa, the University of Michigan, the University of Minnesota, Michigan State University, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Our aim is to provide collaborative professional learning opportunities for educators of language, culture, and literature. Our series this spring aims at furthering conversations that help uncover the complexities of striking a balance on professional, academic, and personal goals to achieve the well-being of instructors and students of languages. We address this issue through the lens of our current shared circumstances, approaching it from a variety of perspectives, building on the experiences and expertise of individuals on our own campuses. We aim to share insights and to encourage interinstitutional dialogue, bridging the institutional distance. Bridging the institutional distance and fostering a collaborative interchange of ideas. You are invited to contribute to what we hope will be a lively conversation. Now we can go to the next slide. The sessions will be recorded and made available through each institution's website. We ask that you mute your microphone at the outset and that you use the tools in Zoom to contribute questions and comments in the chat, and during the open discussion period to raise your hand virtually prior to activating your microphone. Closed captioning is available through the live transcript button in the Zoom bar. Our next event will be held 1 week from tomorrow on Tuesday, not a Monday or a Thursday, but Tuesday next week. At this time, coming from the University of Michigan and addressing academic integrity, promoting trust, reflection, and accountability in the remote setting. Today's session is hosted by the University of Minnesota, and it's my pleasure to welcome back and serve as a discussant with Dr. Katrien Vanpee, the director of the Arabic language program at the university, who's been working with advanced students of Arabic on projects with real-world applications. Our series this spring focuses on balancing commitments and tasks to promote well-being. Since we moved to remote instruction 1 year ago this week, it has been easy to see the remote environment and teaching through Zoom as an impediment to student learning, as an obstacle that creates distance and a remoteness to the material. However, Katrien has designed projects that take advantage of the access afforded through online communication and place the learning within a meaningful context that promotes both student learning and well-being. Katrien, I'll let you take over the sharing and tell us about your projects. Welcome, Katrien.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan, for the introduction. That was very nice. Okay, let's see how I will share my slides. Here they are. Can everybody see the slides?
Yep.
Yep, okay. I will go into presentation mode a little bit later after I show you a Google Doc as well. Okay, all right, so thanks for being here, everybody. I thought that given the brevity of these sessions that I would keep things very practical today and that I would describe for you in some detail the two class projects that I mentioned in the description for the presentation and that Dan also mentioned, so that ideally you walk away from this session with some specific ideas for a couple things you could do or a couple things you could tweak. So instead of starting with background on existing research about the relationship between project-based language learning and student motivation and various forms of engagement, I will go straight to the projects themselves. And I will show some citation for scholarship that's a good read on this topic in the last slides. So this should help me stay within 20 minutes today. Okay, let's see how I can move things forward here. All right. Both projects I will be discussing today I designed for our advanced Arabic learners. However, variations on them can also be done with lower level learners, definitely. Both projects have a direct connection to the themes of my advanced level course units. They are part of a curriculum that's grounded in social justice pedagogy, and they are where I try to give students the opportunity to transform their knowledge about specific subjects, their reflection and their critical thinking on these subjects into a form of social action, specifically by having students share work and share important conversations with their local community and with the global World Wide Web community. My goal with both these projects is first to reinforce for students the very real usefulness and pertinence of what they are studying for the world beyond their classroom. Second, and connected to this, to remind students of what they learn in Arabic class is not only useful to them, but can be used to engage in positive social action in their communities. Third, to have them work together, depending on each other, toward a meaningful goal. And then finally, both projects also target technological literacy in different ways. The idea is that by combining meaningful social justice related content with teamwork toward a challenging goal that has public benefit, students' motivation may be strong and their emotional engagement, their cognitive engagement also high. This, of course, can increase student well-being in their fully online Arabic class and make them feel that their online education is still very much worth it. So what were these two projects? The first, which we did last semester, involved students' organization together as a class group of a public-facing event over Zoom, open to the community beyond our campus, during which students engaged with Arab artists in a conversation about their work. The second is currently ongoing in the Advanced Arabic 2 class and involves semester-long research by each student on a social justice-related topic. And then each students create a portfolio with different artifacts, linguistic artifacts, all of which are about that topic. And then we'll turn a selection of these artifacts into a resource guide for each topic that we'll publish on a website created with Weebly. Okay, so let's look at the first project in more detail. The public-facing event with Arab artists formed the second leg of a larger project that spanned the semester in the Advanced Arabic 1 class. The first leg of that project involved students' exploration independently and on a weekly basis of the work of Arab artists, so Arab songs, short stories, all kinds of things, and students' reflection on this work by means of reflection forums that they submitted every week. The project as a whole connected directly to the unit I created on art and community in times of crisis. I've already touched upon project goals, but very concretely, I was hoping that making students' exploration of Arab art come alive through a conversation with actual Arab artists, students' excitement about class would increase and their motivation and their sense of well-being would be bolstered. Also, by making the event public, students create an opportunity for community members to hear in detail from these artists about their accomplishments and the struggles they have faced and about their work. So this is, of course, not only a way to do something for the community, but also to support the work of the artists themselves, especially since we all know that performance opportunities for artists have also dwindled during the pandemic. Because I wanted members of the public in the Twin Cities to be able to attend the event over Zoom, I decided that this event would be in English rather than in Arabic. Of course, depending on the audience you have in mind for events like this, you could choose to do this in the target language. And I want to be clear about this, that I don't think at all that an event like this should be held in students L1. We did it in English because I wanted, when I was designing this, to have people from the Twin Cities community, students' parents and such, be able to hear the interview. If we go back to this slide over here, exclusively Arabic is used during class and for all other projects, which also included several hours of conversations with a native speaker in Arabic. So for that reason, I could accept that this one project would be done in English, given that the students would also get learning about culture out of it, would practice teamwork, would develop their technological literacy, and so on. Okay, so how then did I plan this out? First, I created a timeline starting with a 2-week time frame in which the event could be held, and then I worked backwards from there. I planned in due dates for a dry run of the event and for the submission of the event playbook. I identified when flyers and advertising needed to be done, when invitations and reminder notes to the artists would need to be emailed, and I planned in 2 class periods during the semester for event planning discussions. I also mapped out all the roles students would need to take on. They're listed here on the slide, making sure that these roles were varied enough to cater to students' diverse interests and talents. And I shared with students my detailed grading criteria for the project, and those I will show you in this Google Doc here. And so based on these grading criteria, I created a rubric for the end of the semester. So they involved level of engagement with classmates, how many thoughtful ideas were being offered, did you respectfully listen to other people's ideas, did you bring quality work to your role, were you responsive to feedback, those kinds of things. Those were the grading criteria for this project. Okay. For grading purposes, I asked that students document their work, and I told them that there would be peer assessment of everybody's contributions after the event. As I planned, my guiding principles, yep, we're in the right slide, were that, again, with an eye on student motivation, this would be a student-led, student-owned event in which students as a class would make the decisions, not me, and they would need to coordinate with each other extensively. My role, instead, I saw as that of facilitator, so I took notes during their discussions. I kept their discussions on topic. Also, warranty clause for everybody involved. So I would ensure both for the students and the artists that the event would not go off the rails. And I would open doors where needed. So that meant finding contact information for the artists, getting permissions from the university, securing payment for the artists, which for this event I wanted to include. Okay. All right. Students' first assignment involved brainstorming event ideas in a Canvas discussion forum. I gave them a week to discuss their ideas online about the number of artists to invite, which arts these people should practice, the length and the structure of the event. A week later, we devoted a class period to making decisions about students' ideas. The class decided that they preferred to have 2 artists, 1 visual artist, 1 singer, on a Saturday afternoon, taking into account time differences with the Middle East, and the event should be 1.5 hours. For event structure, students were interested in having a brief showcase of the artist's work, having the artists comment on that work, and then including an interview with the artists. Next, I assigned students to research potential artists they would like to invite. I said it could be anybody. And the class voted on their selection in a poll I created in Poll Everywhere. We used a couple of those polls. You can see here what the students came up with. Yaron is smiling, I think, because he sees Mashrou Leila in there. So the students had some really grand plans for extremely famous artists. They did realize in the end that it was probably a good idea to go with artists who would probably respond to our emails. Okay. Then I assigned students to rank in a Canvas assignment to roles they were most and least interested in taking on. And based on student interests, I confirmed with each student their role. So nobody had to take on a role. Those who wanted to design flyers could do that. Those who wanted to serve as interviewers could do that based on what they felt they were comfortable with. So you see that I'm trying to create here significant space for student voice and student choice. Following role assignments, the student who chose to be our correspondent drafted an invitation email in Arabic, and then I edited that for her, and she sent it to the email addresses of the artists that I had found. Lesson 1, we learned here the artist did not respond to her. So when I followed up a week later, the artist did reply saying they thought that wasn't real, that a student hadn't actually invited them or that she wasn't a student. Once I provided more context, both artists did sign on. So a tip, it may be worth it for the instructor to do the initial approaching of the artists. And then with the artist confirmed, I was able to formally reintroduce my student correspondent to them and then She took care of all further correspondence with them. Next came creating of flyers in Arabic and English and advertising. Our flyer creators chose to use Canva, not Canvas, Canva, to create 2 flyers with the artist photos that the artist had authorized. And then our advertisers took the initiative of creating a list of university departments, other colleges, community organizations that they reach out to. And the whole class also reached out to their family and friends using these flyers. Our advertisers were eager to use social media, and they created a Facebook event page, which I will show here. These are the 2 artists here. Facebook event page, which would also be used for live streaming the event. I had never done that, nor did I know how to do that. A student taught me how to do that, which was awesome. Meanwhile, during our initial brainstorming session, students had asked if they could use the event to raise funds for a cause. I checked with the administration if that was appropriate to do in the context of a class. And once we got the green light, students researched organizations to raise funds for, and then again, they voted. Next came hashing out the event structure. Here we ran into our only issue with students not quite following through on the roles they had chosen. Our event coordinators did not create a detailed event playbook despite my reminders. So their peers who had become very invested in the event spontaneously took over some of their work. And then for what was left, I carved out an additional class hour in the week before the event to have the class put together what was missing. So tip 2, even in a class in which practically all students are excitedly contributing, as the instructor, of course, you need to be willing to carve out extra time for any delay, to make up for any delay that maybe is created by some who are not quite doing what they need to do. In the week before the event, I assigned all students to compose interview questions for the artists, and then our interviewers organized these questions and they emailed, our correspondent emailed the questions to the artists. Then the last class before the event, we took some time to test out our technology and to have our student MC and interviewers rehearse their transitions. I think the event itself was by all standards a success. The students were a little bit starstruck. The artists were very graceful and they spoke at length about their experience as Palestinian artists. Coincidentally, the students had chosen 2 Palestinian artists, a singer, Ruba Shamshoum, who's in the photo on the right, and a very well-known Palestinian painter, Sliman Mansour, who's in the photo on the left. Community members asked questions in the chat box during the event that the students included in the interview. And then the artists themselves afterwards said that they had really enjoyed it, especially learning from each other. And we had about 50 students, faculty, Twin Cities community members attend the live event. And then the Facebook live stream was viewed by, depending on the data you use, between 750 and 900 people. So that's not bad. In addition, the students' GoFundMe page, which they advertised before and during the event, raised close to $1,000, which the students donated to an organization called Natakallem, which provides language partnerships in which the language partners are people who have experienced displacement. Okay, how do I know that this project may have done something for students' well-being in class? I had them write an essay in Arabic on their experience, and also they completed a post-event survey, and students' experience feedback was very positive. Additionally, I got a sense of students' excitement from the initiatives they themselves took and how much they chose to be in touch with each other and with myself about it. So I mentioned the initiative that students added on of doing this fundraiser. I would never assign students to raise money for a cause, but they wanted to do it. So, you know, I'll translate that as interest in the project. They also created a GroupMe messaging group. I had also never heard of what that is, but it's a text group and text messages were flying for weeks at times way too late into the night. But so also from that, I figured that means students were into the project. So I would recommend doing a project like this in a remote language class, and I would certainly do it again. So here you can see in the post-event survey, I had room for students to give themselves credit. How did I do? What did I do? Describe that in detail, but also to give shout outs to the others who helped me most, who was essential to the success of the event. And then those students who got the most shout outs, I sent an email to them saying, your classmates loved what you did. Okay, so that was the first project. Here are a couple student comments from that post-event survey. So students really enjoyed it. Some of them were rather anxious in the day before the event that things would not come together. I was too, but they did come together. All right. Second project, this is the one we're doing this semester. So this one we're doing with the advanced 2 learners and is fully in Arabic. The project again is connected to the semester's course curriculum and again spans the entire semester. After having students work on the development of their independent learning skills in fall, I didn't talk about that, but that was something they also did in fall. I wanted them this semester to research a social justice related subject in some depth, and then transform that knowledge into a set of resources that they would offer to the public. Hence the idea of the e-portfolio and the resource guide published on the web. And here are a couple of examples of the topics that the students are researching. So the stateless people of Kuwait, history of slavery in Libya, history of slavery in Mauritania, Yemen's marginalized waste pickers. We had in fall studied the lived experiences of Cairo's waste pickers. So now a student is researching this group of people who lives in Yemen, Iraq's Black Iraqi community, access to water in Palestine. These are the topics they're working on. The portfolio consists of varied assignments, 1 per week, and includes creating a multilingual bibliography. So by multilingual, I mean sources in Arabic, sources in English, and sources in any other language that the student happens to master. So if a student also speaks French, then they are including that as well. Students are also creating their own vocab list related to the topic with words that are new to them, that they think are important for the topic. Then there are a small number of written essays, a small number of Flipgrid videos in which the students present on an aspect of the topic. There is a collection of properly credited and captioned images related to the topic. And this week they are making an infographic in Arabic that sheds light on some important numbers related to the topic. So I provide feedback on each of these assignments that the students work on individually, but the project also has a social component. This week, in fact, this morning, we devoted a class period to a class discussion in Arabic of the progress that the students are making with their portfolios. And so they do their elevator pitch about why they chose this topic and why it's a really compelling topic, those kinds of things. Next, in week 11, students will open up their e-portfolios in Google Drive to their classmates who will be assigned to read their materials, listen to their materials, and then submit questions for their peers on the peers topic. And then 3 class periods will be devoted not to presentations on Zoom, as in the online environment, students would just be reading off scripts rather than actually present, but rather they'll be doing interactive Q&As about the student's topic in which all students are graded on the quality of questions they ask, on the thoughtfulness of the responses they give to their peers, and on the attentiveness they have brought to their peers' portfolio. So for this project, students are also assessed on the quality of the Arabic they use in their artifacts and in the discussions. Then in the last weeks of the semester, we're going to be selecting those materials from students' portfolios that are most useful to the public. And then each student will put together a research guide. So that might include the bibliography, the captioned images, the infographic, the vocab list, these kinds of things. And then we'll put that on a website, create it with Weebly. So it is here that the project transforms students' learning of their own enrichment into learning for their own enrichment into something that has use for others. Now, some of these topics are certainly not part of existing Arabic curricula, as far as I know, or a topic like Iraq's Black Iraqi community is not one that has enjoyed a lot of coverage or scholarship on it. So it's nice that students tackle these kinds of things that are maybe a little bit less common as part of Arabic curricula. So my intent here again is to remind the students that with their advanced level skills, that they are empowered to educate others about important real world issues and phenomena. This project is of course still ongoing, so I haven't been able to collect student feedback on it yet. So I'm not sure what this project is doing for students' motivation other than from this morning's discussion in which they said that they found the weekly assignments helpful to deepen their knowledge about these subjects. So that is basically it. These are two examples of things you can do in the online environment that work very well in the online environment. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on them, get your comments, your questions, and I will stop talking now.
Thank you so much, Katrien. You've raised a number of questions here in the chat, and if I can just kind of synthesize a couple of them. First of all, you have two very involved projects, which is really interesting. The role of English in the first project was the what aspects were done in English, and did you have to find artists that spoke English, or were there interpreters, or was the event carried out in Arabic or in English?
The event itself was carried out in English, and we did not, in fact, take into account whether or not the artists would master English or not when students researched them. So we just got lucky in that regard, that it turned out that both artists were both able and very willing to speak English, as we explained that we were hoping people from Minnesota would come listen to their experiences. But there are always ways to attach target language assignments to a project like this, even if you are going to do it in English. I think if I would do this again, maybe I would say, okay, my audience is going to be Arabic programs in the country, and everybody will speak Arabic. So the learners, the students, participants can do the interview in Arabic. But you can do your post-event survey in Arabic. I had an exam question on the final exam. I had different writing prompts that they could choose from, but one possible writing prompt was, what did you learn from these two artists about their struggles, their experiences? So they had, Arabic writing attached to it.
So was all of the interaction with the artists taking place in English then? So their writing to them and so on was not necessarily, wasn't Arabic. How large was the class? 14
students.
Okay.
So in the slides with roles, there were two students for most roles, keeping an eye on each other that way too. So 2 flyer designers, 2 advertisers, 2 interviewers, but 1 MC, 1 correspondent with the artists. We divided it up that way.
It looked like your Facebook page was in Arabic though.
We had a flyer in Arabic. Yes. Yeah, so that we did, for example, the flyers, I said you have to make 1 in English and 1 in Arabic. And so when they submitted a draft for the Arabic one, that was an opportunity for me to edit it slightly and to say, okay, this is how you say, for more information, please go to this link, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of questions then too about the e-portfolio. Is the e-portfolio the instructional focus of the course, or is it just one of several activities or foci?
So as was the case with the event, it counts for 15% of the total course grade. So it's one project out of a course that has various other ways for students to be graded.
So there might have been other homework during the week than just.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. These weekly assignments, sorry, Dan, these weekly assignments. So I put them on every week schedule. And then I say, you can do this anytime this week, as long as you have it in by Sunday at 9.
So it's a kind of parallel to what the other things you're doing in class.
Right.
And just a quick question about the website. Are students posting or putting these e-portfolios up on the website themselves? Are you teaching them how to do that? Do they know how to do this already?
So I think what I will do, this is an ongoing project, right? So we aren't yet in the website stage. I think what I will do is I will try one out myself and then tell students how to prepare all their materials, maybe pass those materials on to me, and then I'll put them on the website just so everything looks uniform. This is the idea.
So you're giving them a format pretty much.
Yeah.
We have a question. What level was the e-portfolio done in?
This is also advanced Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to say first of all, thank you so much, Katrien, for this really stimulating project, or both of them that you've been talking about. We are at the end of the 30 minutes. It goes by really quickly, but we are also going to stick around for another 10-15 minutes if you want to continue the conversation, questions, answers, and so on. But we don't want to keep you longer than the 30 minutes. We can certainly understand if you need to go.